Okay, we are recording. So I told you last week that we were going to start our rhythms and patterns and texture project. I was going to follow that up with a project for what you guys were taking notes on and taking that test on. So the project will look something like this. This is like a smaller, scaled down version of it that I did as an example. So you're supposed to have 12 shapes. And these shapes are like little blobs or amoebas. They're very organic. They're not supposed to be geometric. So just 12 little blob looking shapes. Inside of those 12 shapes are going to be all sorts of different kinds of rhythms, repetitions. Some of you might do like textures and patterns. So whether it's flowing or alternating, or maybe you are simulating like wood grain. This one's like a simulated texture. Here we have some like zoom up of cells. Here this looks more like a snake skin. So you might simulate the pattern by doing the texture, or it might be invented. You know, it might be all over the place. So you're going to combine rhythms, patterns, and textures. These 12 shapes will all be connected using some kind of string or rope that wraps around. Over the years, I've had students put the ropes like in front. Sometimes it goes like behind and then it reappears. And so it flows all over the paper, and it just helps to break up those areas of whites, and it makes it look more interesting. So you got to connect your shapes with a string, a plant vine. I've seen students do like chain links, all kinds of stuff. So I went ahead and I decorated mine just so that it wouldn't be so boring. Let me show you some examples from the previous years. Here's another student's. This is like really big, okay? So here's my sample. You can see that my sample drawing is like really, really small. I took a picture of this and I sent it to everybody so they would have an example. But the actual project is 12 inches tall. So it's 12 inches this way, and then it's 18 inches long. So it's basically 2 pages. If you had 1 page and then you taped another page to it, it's 2 pages long. So it's basically 2 of these. So I could fit one here, and then I could fit another one over here. So it's 2 pages. It's going to be worth a lot. So you definitely want to do this project and not skip out on this assignment. It's worth more than that test you guys took. Okay. Here's a different student example. So some students left more space. They made their shapes a little smaller. This student had bigger shapes. They were touching, they were connected. Yes, so the question in the chat was, we'll just tape 2 papers together. Yeah, you can do that. You can take 2 pages together. Hold on, let me add someone in. They just barely came to Zoom. There we go. All right, here's an old one. Like, it's so old, the paper is starting to like go off white. So this one's very old. This is probably from like the 90s. So you can see that these students all met the requirements. They have 12 shapes. You can go through and count the shapes. There's 12 of them in there. The shapes are connected with some kind of string. And then for each of the individual shapes, there is a different pattern or a different kind of texture or a different kind of rhythm. They all have shading. Some are shaded, some are left the way they are. Okay, this one they chose like ropes. So it will be interesting to see what you come up with creatively. So this one, the string, they chose to color the string. So now it has a different look to it. But each student came up with their own unique designs, their own unique repetitions. They made it their own. So this one was more like invented. There's nothing there that's really like simulated where they were trying to get the skin or tree bark or something that was from real life. Nothing looked realistic. This is all made up. So this student went more with invented textures. Here's a different one. Their string was left white. So you can see where the strings go. It helps connect the shapes. Some of them have thin little strings. Other students will have large, thick ribbon-esque type of string. Okay, so we've got eyeballs, got the yin and yang, musical notes, right? Flames down here, flames that are being repeated, so all kinds of stuff. So the goal here is to put everything you've learned before the end of second quarter. Remember everything we learned about, which was rhythms, textures, patterns. We're going to put all that together and you're going to create a project out of it. And you're going to demonstrate your understanding of it. If you didn't do well on the test, or if you didn't know what the definitions were, you couldn't find examples, or you just didn't do any of the assignments, then this project can be very, very difficult for you because you don't know how to begin and you wouldn't know what to do because you don't understand what pattern is or what is texture, or he wanted rhythms. What's a rhythm? So you need to know those things to be able to do this. So what I will do is share. I will share the document with you all. So let's see here. Yaralzi just got in. Let me highlight her name. Okay. So let's go to rhythms here on my computer. So I'll share this with everybody. This document here has the requirements for the project. So you can see if I control zoom, can I just do that from the top here? Let's see here. Zoom in. Okay, there we go. So this is the texture and rhythm project, pattern project as well. Let's put pattern in there. Pattern, texture, pattern, and rhythm project. Created an artwork which is 12 by 18 for the size, that focuses on rhythms using the elements of line, pattern, texture, shape, and shading. So you're going to draw the shapes by doing the 12 shapes, right? You're going to be adding the shading when you do the patterns. Of course, there's going to be line involved as soon as you're drawing, and then the patterns are whatever you're repeating. Okay, so this artwork will be 12 by 18 or 2 pages. Okay, so it's 12 by 18 or it's 2 pages taped. You must have a total of 12 different patterns. The patterns must increase in complexity. So if you've got a simple one, after you do your first simple checkered one, the next one better be a way more complex. You got to add some shading. You got to add some texture to it. So right here it's talking about the textures. So for your textures, you can either have it simulated or it can be invented. You can make it up or make it realistic. Patterns have, your patterns must have the 5 types of rhythms. So I've got to see some flowing, show me some alternating, show me some random, show me a regular one, and then one that's progressive. And then the last one, they've all got to have some shading in it. So here's an example of a draft that I did. And you guys saw the actual size of this one. It wasn't that big. It was really small. Once the rough draft looks good, then I went ahead and transferred that into a large piece of paper. So you must strive to make your patterns, designs look amazing. Anything less will not score as well. So they better be super detailed, well thought out. You can't just draw a few lines and be like, okay, I'm done. Did you add texture? Did you add shading? What kind of rhythms is that? So that's what I'll be looking for. So if you need help on how to start, you can search the internet by typing in Zendoodle art. And there's tons of that. There's tons of tutorials on the internet. Okay, so this will be, I'll get to the due date in a sec. Let me help you look up Zendoodle. So for this part here, look up Zendoodle art. You just type in Zendoodle art, and there's tons of stuff of how to create patterns. So you click on any of these, and this is a great way to like, oh, okay, I know what I want to do. So any of these are fine. If you just want to like this one here, they just kept it as a square, but we're going to use blobs. This one here, they made their shapes as like a pie chart. So whatever their shapes are, it's similar to ours. I'm just having us do blobs, okay? So that we're doing it a little different from the internet. So 12 blobs. You guys can Google that on your own time when you begin. So I will give you guys until next Wednesday to get this into me. Okay, so the due date will be next Wednesday. That'll be, yeah, 2 pages. Yes. So for today, all I want for today is a picture of 12 shapes. All right. So I'm going to model that now. I will share this with everybody. Don't worry. Everyone's going to get this. Okay. I'll click share and I'll type in first period. You're all going to get it eventually. What I want to focus on now, though, is the 12 shapes. So for today, your homework is to finish your 12 shapes and have them connected. Don't draw any patterns. Don't do any rhythms. No texture yet. Let's just focus on getting this part here out of the way. So today, we are just getting rid of this number 12 shape. Right? So 12 shapes. So I'm just going to go 1. Well, how big are the blobs? You can see my hand. They're like a fist size. Okay. So if some of you are wondering how big do I make my shapes, they're about the size of your fist. Can the shapes go off the page? Yeah, some of them might go right off the page like this, and that's fine too. See, is it okay if sketch the shapes? Yeah, if you want to sketch it on a different piece of paper first, just to try it out, do so. Maybe I got like a little sharp T-bone steak shape here. You don't have to make these blobs look like anything that is recognizable. Sometimes you might even have a shape in front and then there's a shape behind, like that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and for 12, I'm just going to go off the bottom like that. And this will be 12. Okay, so 7, 8. So this is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. 12 is this big bottom bean shape. So my camera cannot go any higher and I can't zoom out anymore, but this paper is huge. It's so big the camera can't get it all. The next thing we want to get out of the way is to connect these shapes. So we're going to connect these shapes, and then on the checkoff list, you can already check off today. I got my 12 shapes and they're all connected. Now, for the next following days, I'll just do 2 blobs per period. 40 minutes is plenty of time. 20 minutes here, 20 minutes here. The next day, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. And so each day, you'll just switch on and off. Like, okay, I'll do realistic texture today. Or do a pattern that is flowing, or maybe I'll do one that's progressive tomorrow. So you can just pick and choose. So I'm breaking this project down into easy little baby steps, day by day. We're not doing it all at once so that you won't feel overwhelmed and give up and quit. So now I'm going to connect these shapes. I'll draw a string here to here. So I don't know what I'm going to make this string into. It could be rope. I don't know yet. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like this. And later on, if you decide to make these into like chains or balls or like leaves, vines and stuff, you can do that later. But I'm going to connect these. So maybe I'll have this come here. So let's go here. Maybe the string comes this way, and then it pops out behind, and then it goes in front. Like so. You can see that I'm using a pencil, and I'm in the early stages, so I'm going to be erasing a lot. You might be changing your mind a lot. Patterns might not be looking the way you want them to, so you might be erasing a lot. My point is, start with a pencil. Don't use a pen until the very end. Okay, if you want to outline yours, don't do this until all your patterns look good and you're like, all right, I'm ready, definitely ready to ink it in. If you don't want to ink it in, that's fine too. Just make sure your shading is nice and dark so I can see it and it shows up really good in the picture. All right, and then maybe I want to connect this one to this one. So I might come through like this. Hopefully, I'm not in frame. I was hoping I was in frame. Okay, so I'm gonna come through like this. Maybe this one goes like that. So now this spot is used up. And then maybe I want to connect these two. Like so. Maybe I have one coming out from behind, number 9, and it's connecting to number 6. So Drawing it from number 9. And maybe it connects to number 6. Hopefully I'm in frame. So this assignment should be really fun and really easy to do because you're not required to draw it realistically. If you want to just make up the textures on your own and the patterns are all made up from the top of your head, you can do all in invented. Maybe 1 or 2 you might want to do simulated. You want to do realistic cheetah prints or reptile skin. I don't know. All right, I'm going to connect 11 to 12. So I'm just breaking up the white spaces. And then let's do 7 to 10. So 7 to 10, like so. And maybe I'll connect this to number 8. So this line might just come all the way through to number 8. Like so. All right, so I have all of my strings and I have all of my shapes. They are good to go. Those steps are out of the way. It looks good to me. I no longer have to worry about my blobs. The shapes are big enough to fit an interesting pattern. They're not like small, the size of an eraser. If you draw it too small, you can't do a pattern inside of it. So we want a collection of patterns. Now we will be ready for tomorrow's assignment, which is pick 1 or 2. So tomorrow in class, I'll do a new recording. You guys will throw out a number. Do number 10 and number 9, Mr. Hurt, and then I'll go ahead and I'll start on number 10. And you guys can tell me, do invented or do simulated texture or shade it in or make it alternating, make it flowing. You get to choose and decide. I'll model those 2. Or if you don't want these 2, I'll model some other 2. And then once you guys get the hang of it, like, oh, I know what to do, then the recordings will stop. But I'm going to end this video here. So in the Zoom, I'm going to stop recording.